Interview log 1529-1. Interviewed hereafter L. Interviewer Agent Forward. On 2000, L was reportedly killed during an encounter with SCP-1529 when it abruptly became active shortly after L had reached the mountain summit. However, L was found alive when another team reached his position nearly 2 days later, and was removed safely from the mountain. He required fingertip and toe amputations due to frostbite, but is otherwise making a full recovery. The following is an excerpt from L's debriefing prior to his discharge from the hospital. Tell me about what happened when you encountered the creature.
It can't have been more than 10 minutes after I left the summit, about 1300. That's the hardest part of the climb. You've reached the top and you're exhilarated and proud of yourself. And then you realize you've just done the most difficult thing you've ever done in your life. And you have to do it all over again, right now, backwards. Or you'll end up like Green Boots. The others were 5 or 6 meters ahead of me. I'd been delayed a moment to adjust my hood. That's when I saw it come over the ridge.
What was your reaction when you first saw it?
Surprised, to say the least. We hadn't been told there was anyone else climbing to the top that day. I thought he must have come over from the other side or gotten left behind by his mates. I shouted and waved my hands in the air to try to get his attention.
What happened when you got its attention?
He looked right at me, and that's when it started. I suddenly felt happy, relieved. It was like right away all the pain and soreness and the chill was gone. I didn't have blisters on my feet, and I could feel the tip of my nose again. It was like I was back in kicking up my feet by the fireplace. Like I could forget all my worries and enjoy a well-deserved rest. But it didn't feel right. Have you ever heard of paradoxical undressing? When your body starts to cool down, really cool down, and your blood vessels dilate, and you start to feel like you're warming up. So you start tearing off your clothes because you feel like you're burning up and you need to cool off. And the next thing anyone knows, you're naked and frozen to death, curled up in a snowbank. I had a mate who went that way in '98. As far as I know, he's still curled up next to the Hillary Step.
So you believed you were imagining it?
Right. So I tried to shrug it off, but I couldn't take my eyes off the man who'd started climbing up towards me. And that's when it all went to shit.
How so?
Right away, all that warmth and comfort was gone. Suddenly I felt cold, colder than I'd been before, colder than I had a right to be. I couldn't feel my fingers or my face. My lips felt cracked and frozen. I tried to breathe, and it was like my lungs were full of water. My legs cramped up, and next thing I knew, I was down. My mates were almost 30 meters off by now. I tried to yell to them, but all that came out was a whisper. I looked up at that man. That thing was still coming.
How long did it take for it to reach you?
An hour? I'm not sure. I couldn't see my watch, and I don't think I could have made sense of it anyway. I managed to get my arms on the ground, but I couldn't push myself to my feet. It was getting to the point that even if I could right myself, I wouldn't be able to make it back to camp before nightfall. I was starting to think I wasn't making it off the mountain at all. But what worried me more was the man. The closer he got to me, I started to feel something in the back of my head, something primal and menacing, and above all, hateful.
What happened when it reached you?
It grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me up to face it. I was looking right into those goggles, those eyes.
Were they goggles or eyes?
Neither. Both, I don't know. But it was like I could see things in them. Not see them so much, more like feel them. Images and feelings in the back of my mind, rage and joy and confusion.
Confusion?
I don't think it was used to people resisting it. It asked me a question.
It spoke?
Not words so much. I could hear it, but not with my ears. I saw images of people sitting back in hot tubs, laying by a crackling fire, sunning themselves on the beach. Warm, happy people. But I knew their faces. They were faces I'd seen in books and in pictures, and people I'd seen on the way up the mountain who I hadn't seen on the way down. I saw green boots. People still laying face down somewhere in the death zone. And I heard its question.
Which was?
You would refuse my gift.
Go on.
I could barely make sense of anything that was going on. But I knew that this thing in front of me was a bigger threat than any storm or any snowdrift. Moving my lips was harder than anything I've ever done, but I did, and I told it yes.
How did it respond?
I saw more images of those same people laying in the snow, already half dead. I could tell I was looking at them from its perspective. It was them. I could have been sick. It didn't say anything to me in words so much, but it was angry at me. It was offended, outraged, shocked. It was trying to tell me I'd been ungrateful. And instead of relaxing peacefully while I'd have to feel every minute of it. I asked it, why are you doing this?
What did it say then?
It mocked me.
Just a few more questions, please. How did it mock you?
It showed me another one of its victims. Probably the first one, Mallory, 1924. I'd have known that face like my own mother's, but I'd never seen it in that kind of detail before. Or in that condition. He was on his stomach, weak, frostbitten, dying. He was waving and hollering at the thing as I watched it approach from its own perspective. It looked at him in the eyes, and it made me watch every second until it was done. I think watching it was worse than living it would have been. Then it told me.
Told you what?
Because it's there.
What happened next?
I wasn't gonna let it happen to me. It was holding me up, so I had just enough strength to ball up my fist. I punched it hard as I could, every last ounce of strength I had, right in the goggles. They cracked. I could see what was behind them.
What was that?
I don't remember much after that. Must have gotten in my bivy bag somehow, because that's how they found me.
Closing statement. After L's encounter with SCP-1529, it was not observed, active or inactive, for 5 months, 17 days, 19 hours. Upon next observation, its goggles showed no signs of damage or wear. L passed away on 2000. Foundation media assets have reported that the cause of death was due to complications from childhood exposure to asbestos. An autopsy performed by the Foundation indicated that L was suffering extreme hypothermia, frostbite, and cerebral edema at the time of his death. L had retired from mountaineering following the SCP-1529 encounter and had not traveled more than 500 meters above sea level in the 12 months preceding his death. End of report.